Boom, what's up guys? Jonathan Liu here, and in this video today I want to talk about letting go of your old story, your old identities. And I have a little simple process that I use that really works for me. And really I was going to make this video a couple weeks back, but I just didn't make the time to do it just yet. And I realized, like, just these last couple months, May and June, have been huge. Like, the universe has been giving everybody signs to really let go of those old stories and those old identities and those things that just they no longer serve us anymore. And so I wanted to just quickly talk about that and share kind of the system and the process that I use to actually do that, because I let go of a lot of different identities, but I want to share just a couple of examples and kind of where these identities come from, right? So as we grow up, we have different experiences and different traumas, and certain things happen to us, and we create an identity, and usually it's to protect us or to serve us somehow, some way. Or it's, if you guys read my post on the shame, right? I had this experience in high school that was really shameful, so I created this identity of being hard, being a tough guy, and because I was so humiliated, and I want, that's one of the reasons I got into, to gangs and islands, and just started rebelling, because I went from kind of a good straight A student, studied a lot, to all out party and, just get into all sorts of crazy stuff. And it was this identity I created. And it's the same thing in relationships. We create certain identities, right? I used to be a very nice, kind, do everything, open the door, and very gentleman-like. And I still have that in me now. But at the time when I first did that with my first couple girlfriends and I got dumped, I said, screw this, I'm just going to be a bad boy. And, nice guys finish last and all this stuff. So I created a persona, an identity of being the bad boy and not caring and treating women like crap and all this stuff, right? All this stuff that was created because it served me in a way, right? So there's two stories I want to talk about today. One is the guilty son, and one is the invisible or non-existent teen. I'm going to start with actually the non-existent teen. So this is, I worked on a client a couple weeks ago, and she was feeling like, she was here for a greater purpose. But she didn't feel like she was aligned with her truths, and she didn't know what to do, and she just kind of felt off. And as we dug into it and got deeper and deeper, what we realized is there was an incident, when she was a lot younger, and I don't remember the age, maybe 12, 13. She doesn't really remember either. It was just, right around that 12, 13 years old. And she was very gifted, very intuitive. She would see things and hear things and get messages. She didn't quite know who they were from or what it was. And when she asked somebody for help, or she shared this with people, especially it was in her church, and I guess the pastor told her that it was, the devil's work. She was doing the devil's work. That's Satan, and don't tune into those things. That's, that's evil and all this stuff. And, she was pretty shocked, and she was devastated by that. So she basically shut herself down, and she shut her gifts down, and she just turned off, that intuitive switch. And that led to, creating this identity, this story of feeling non-existent, of feeling invisible. She didn't want people to see her or notice her anymore, because a part of her was like, well, if I share my gifts, if I shine my light, then I will shut down. I mean, I'll get shut down, or somebody's going to come attack me and tell me I'm evil or whatever. And that was really, really big. And that part of her stuck with her as she got older and grew and had different experiences. And here's the thing, a lot of times these identities, these stories, these personas, they kind of get stuck, right? They're stuck in us somewhere. If we don't properly release them and process them, just like any type of energy or any type of emotion, they get stuck. So, in our session, I had her just reach out, talk to that part of her that has been invisible for so long, and and let her go. And I'm going to kind of go through the process with you on how to do that. And she went through this process, and she was like, afterwards, she was like, wow, I'm here. I'm here. I'm present. Like, I feel like I'm actually here, instead of feeling that non-existent, invisible team or person that's, that's been in there within her for so long. Okay. And the second story, actually, let me go through the process real quick, right? The second story is about me. So before I do that, let me just go through the process of kind of how I do it. It's a very simple 4-step process, okay? Step 1 is, you've got to identify, right? You got to identify what this persona or story, what is your story? What keeps coming up for you that's like, man, I don't know why I keep doing that. So that's the first step, is to kind of identify what that is. Which, persona. Is it the guilty daughter? Is it the shameful son? Is it the doubtful child in you? Is it the angry mom? Whatever it is, there's all these different identities and different stories, and it's so hard to kind of see it within ourselves, because it just kind of happens, and we don't realize why it happens, and it keeps happening. And for me, it was the guilty son, right? So for me, when I went on my path of kind of darkness and destruction, my parents were really good to me, and especially my dad. My dad was really, really awesome. He's a great father, great husband, great man. And I just, I was just going on my own path, and I know I hurt him a lot, going to jail and prison and all, through everything, living at my parents' house, treating it like a hotel, and disrespecting my mom, disrespecting my dad. All of that, I know that hurt him inside. I didn't realize that at the time, because I was so angry. But as I got older and I started transforming my life, and I've apologized to him, and we have a great relationship now. And back in May, he actually went to the hospital, and he's usually a very, very healthy guy. So him going to the hospital and staying there for a couple of weeks, it really got to me, because I was trying to help him, and I couldn't do anything at that point. He was just in a lot of pain, and he had to go through what he had to go through, but I felt so powerless, and I felt so guilty that I couldn't do anything, right? And especially as a healer, right? I help all these other people, and I wasn't able to help my dad in that particular situation. I've helped him since then, but it was just all this stuff. And I remember just bawling. I'm like, why? And I realized, actually, Bridget helped me realize that, man, I was playing the story of the guilty son, because I had all this guilt built up since I was, 15, 16 years old, all the way to 25. So 10 years of guilt, of disobeying, disrespecting, just treating my parents, both my mom and my dad, like crap. And even after my transformation, and I repaired our relationship, and I did a lot of different things, and I got, I started growing, and a lot of different things happened, and we have a great relationship now, but I still carried that story of being the guilty son. I had never let that go. So it kept showing up in different ways. In this particular case, my dad went to the hospital, and I felt guilty because I couldn't do anything. I was like, why? I'm over that hump of being the guilty son. I've transformed my life, and I am a good son, and I do treat, my parents with respect now, and everything's changed. But why did I still have that guilty son? And so I had to, identify it. So that's step number 1. Then step number 2 is tuning in to that part of you, right? So if it's, for me, the guilty son, I had to tune into that part of me that felt guilty. And here's the thing, allow it to express, recognize it, acknowledge it, allow that part of you to express. And I did, and stuff came out oh my God, I'm such a bad son, and I can't believe I treated parents like this. All this, you know, these stories, these thoughts. And I was like, wow, okay. So I just let them express everything and feel the guilt and whatever. And and then after I allowed it to express everything, then I was like, you know what, I understand. And you know what, I'm sorry if I've neglected you, if I've pushed you away, or I've not really acknowledged you at all. And that's what we all do, right? There's a part of us that we don't like, that we hate, that we're just like, man, that part comes out and I just hate that part of me. And you just kind of shove it to the side. Like, I don't want to be like that. Oh, I hate that part of me, right? And it's kind of like a little child, right? If that child comes up and you're just like, fuck that, I don't want to deal with you. I don't want you. You're not in my life. You're bad. I don't like the angry you, the blah, blah, blah you, right? Then it gets stuffed back down, but it's never released. It just stays in there. And that's literally, in my opinion, what causes illness, causes disease, causes discomfort, cancers, all that type of stuff, is because we don't acknowledge those parts. We end up really like hating ourselves, right? And it's eating our insides up on an energetic level, which manifests into disease and illness and etc. So after I allowed it to express, then allow you, your conscious right now self, to express. And usually that for me is to apologize and to basically you know, get my word in, like, hey, look, I understand, I'm sorry, I acknowledge you, I do love you, I recognize you, and I'm ready to let you go. And that's kind of the next step. And this step is kind of a two-part step, because one is you can let go in terms of this kind. I look at it like a healthy breakup. Like, hey, this no longer serves me. I know at one point it did, and I have to let you go now. And it's kind of like, hey, a healthy breakup. Okay. Sometimes I say breakup and people are like, whoa, you know, because most people don't have really great breakups, right? I'm very fortunate that I've always had really good breakups in my life. I think I'm like a breakup champ. I always end on good terms. We're always cool, and we always just kind of go separate ways. So, you know, that's kind of, you know, so that's the first part of that step, is to let go, to break up. And sometimes it'll go, sometimes it's kind of sticks around, but you've got to use your heart and feel it and allow it to go. And usually the one thing that stops it from going is that it's created there for a reason. And if you don't know what that reason is, or what lesson you're supposed to learn from that, then it won't necessarily go. And usually the best way to do it is I ask myself, what's the biggest positive lesson you learned, right, by being this guilty son, right? What was it like creating this persona? What was the biggest positive lesson? Not a bad lesson, not a I'm never going to trust people again, or I'm not going to ever do drugs or whatever again. Like, I guess that's a positive, but it's, you know, usually not in the negative terms of, oh, I'm never going to trust women again because I got cheated on, like, and I created this bad boy personality. No, it's usually a really solid positive lesson. And so that's what I always ask. I say, okay, so what's the biggest positive lesson I learned from this guilty son? And it was really I learned, like, wow, well, I had that so I can, that guilt kind of pushed me to appreciate them more, to treat them better. So I was like, wow, my biggest lesson was to appreciate my dad a lot more for who he is and for what he's done for me and just for being in my life. And I was super, super grateful for that. And when I learned that lesson, that positive lesson, it's like, okay, cool. Now that guilty son just naturally left. He's like, all right, cool. You got the lesson. I got the lesson. Let's move on. And I released it. And I can, I'm very intuitive, so I can feel as it goes. And so, yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Like, letting go of those old stories, those old labels, and we have a lot, man. I had a ton. I just literally before this call, I let go of this confused John. I have this pattern of always becoming confused, like, oh, I don't know what to do. This isn't working. Oh, my Facebook ads aren't working. What are we going to do to make money and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And all this stuff. And I'm like, whoa, where's this even? Like, it didn't really, like, on my conscious level, I didn't really, feel it that much, but I could sense it was there. And so I did the same process, right? This five, I identified it, right? So step one is to identify it. Step two is to tune into it. And then step three is to allow it to express. And it just goes on. I was like, dude, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on. This is crazy, blah, 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 blah. And I just was like, whoa, okay. I let it express itself. And then step four is to allow me to express. So I was like, hey, man, I'm sorry that I've been like avoiding you or I've been not recognizing you. I totally acknowledge you. I recognize you. And, you know, I love you. It's all good. You know, we're going to be okay. And then I asked, well, what's the biggest positive lesson of having this confused John all the time? And it came to me like, oh, shoot, whenever I'm confused, you know, it forces me to think of a strategy, think of the next step to do. So it helps me plan for the thing. So when I get confused, I get into this confusion mode, but eventually because I'm confused, I would start to plan something out or think of something. And it puts me into this position of, all right, I got to do something, right? And usually it's like a fear position, which I don't really like. But now that I understood that, I was able to let it go. So I was like, okay, well, it's time to let you go. It's time to, you know, have this healthy breakup, and I appreciate it, but no longer serves me. Gotta let you go. And he was like, well, where am I going to go? I don't know where to go. I was like, dude, you'll be fine. You're going to go into the light, and you're going to go into love, and you're going to be all right. He was like, oh, okay. And so I released them and let that part of me go. And we have so many different parts, right? That was just the confused me. There's the angry me. There's all sorts of, there was the doubtful child in me where I went to the store, and I remember one time I wanted to buy my dad a gift, and it was like a card. It was like a Father's Day card, and I was like 5 or 6 or something. And I had money, but I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to show my dad like I was gonna go buy it for him and give it to him as a surprise. So I kind of, you know, I took it and I put it in my, you know, jacket. And I was gonna go to the line, and some adult saw me, and he's like, hey, man, you better go put that back. And at that time, I was like, what? You know, because I had money, I wanted to buy it, and I put it back, you know, and I didn't know, and I got super confused, and I doubted myself for not standing up and not saying, hey, man, I got the money, I just don't want my dad to see it. Like, that's all I should have said, but I didn't. I just obeyed, and there was like, so that I put a lot of doubt in myself. So that was the doubtful child. So we have all these different personas. So I invite you to look into what personas have you created and what kind of keeps showing up in your life. You know, a lot of us have that victim mentality of, well, everybody, you know, blaming the world and this and that. And that's okay to have that. I would tune in and talk to that part of you and understand why it's there. Where did it come from? How's it serving you? And then just let it go. So that's it for today. I hope you guys got some value out of this. I'd love to hear any feedback if you guys have any questions or anything like that. And yeah, and if you guys haven't already, I'll go ahead and put the link. You guys can check out Bridget and I's free training videos on basically exactly what we do for ourselves and for our clients on how to clear our beliefs, release trapped emotions, bring back and embrace all the love, and just create a life that you love. All right, so I'll put that link in here as well, and have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.